Greetings, folks. Today we've got an early look at a new train-based game. Emphasis on the word game and not sim. This is very much a game that involves trains. It's called Constracktion, which is obviously a play on a mix of the word track, aka train, and construction, aka building, which is what this game is all about. I was graciously given the ability to have an early look at the game by the developer known as Lapioware, who also developed the cozy UK era-specific based train game called Diesel Railcar Simulator that some of you may be familiar with. So same developer as this, and it's kind of got the same feel in a lot of ways. Now, Constraction is due to release on September 1st, so probably just about a week from now, as of release of this video, of this year, of course, 2025, and a price point of what I believe is supposed to be about 14 US dollars, or roughly 12 British pounds. With, I think there's going to be a 10% launch discount and a bundle which you can buy if you want to get Diesel Railcar Simulator and this game together. I think that's going to be like a 30% off bundle for the two titles. But this game is just that, a game, not a sim, so I've looked at it as such. So very much different than I would look at other train sims, which is what I primarily make videos on and enjoy personally. It's sort of a mix of games like Roadcraft, the recently released Roadcraft, a bit of Railroader sprinkled in there, some very slight hints of Railroads Online, just tiny bit of RRO, maybe a dash of Satisfactory, Factorio, stuff like that. It's all kind of a mix of some of those games, and as the title suggests, you'll build track and run trains across 6 maps, and you'll get 3 locomotives at release. I'm not sure if the developer plans to add other bits to the game, but judging on how well Diesel Railcar Simulator was received and how many updates it received over its lifespan, it's, it turned into a really nice game overall. So I would imagine this may have the same fate. We will see. But the goal is to connect industries and make money to purchase more equipment. It's the short and skinny of it. So in the video, we'll go over the gameplay, obviously, controls, UI, graphics, sound, performance, and system requirements. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty, the bread and butter. The entree, the steak. First and foremost, obviously, the core or the gameplay experience. You'll start on the first of 6 maps with the ability to choose between an easy and regular difficulty. So in a nutshell, to progress to a new map, you'll need to complete achievements or milestones. Selecting easy, which I've done here, means you'll generally only need to connect industries on the map and run a certain number of trains or freight hauls in between to open up the next map, essentially. It's fairly easy once you get a couple of industries connected. Now, selecting the normal or evil difficulty requires the previously discussed, obviously, and a lot more. So you'll have other things you'll have to worry about, such as keeping your grades below like 3%, the curvature of your built track to a certain number, etc. Once difficulty is chosen, you start, as you see on this map, with what resembles a geometry or geo rail car. It's even got little lasers on the front, which is kind of cool. That's self-powered, and a small cut of cars in the back, which is track and ballast cars. Obviously, you can choose how you want to connect the industries within the map, placing grades, curves, and turnouts, or switches at your own discretion. That's kind of the beauty and simplicity of this game. Once you have connected an industry to another, AI train will spawn and start to run to another industry and trade or drop off hauls, and essentially make money. So there's like iron ore, coal, things like that. Now you can also choose to control these AI trains if you like. Say maybe there's a log jam or something's going on, or you got a derailment or something like that. You can certainly get in and control the thing. Now initial trains will be small in size, but they'll still net you funds on each complete run. I want to say it's about 10,000. But they'll get larger over time, and the more kind of runs you complete and the bigger you make the map and you flesh out the map with how many industries you have connected. Now, it's not all easy peasy lemon squeezy. This is a tough game. I spent I think I'm on about hour 6 so far of 1 or 2 maps that I've gotten to that I've redone numerous times because I just was not happy with it. So it's easy enough that you can get the stuff connected, but it's also, if you want to do it right, there's a whole other aspect to that as well. So you want to, watch the tightness of the curves so the trains don't derail. And then, of course, grades, because trains will absolutely 100% get stuck on some of these grades. So you definitely want to be careful and mindful of how you build your track. So that's why I kept kind of doing it over and over again. So, for example, I quickly found out my curves were a bit too tight in the second map, and my freight trains derailed immediately. And while you can certainly go back to the drawing board and rework your built line, you've also got tools such as speed signs that you can use down on the bottom, or aka the menu, the in-game menu. So you can place them trackside, which keep the trains at a posted speed. Of course, at like the beginning of a curve, you'll want to place a 5 or a 10 mile an hour sign, depending on the tightness of the curve, naturally, to slow the train down so it doesn't derail, because it most certainly will derail. There are physics within this game, and they're pretty decent from what I found thus far. So there is that. You have to be mindful of the speeds. But also don't forget, once a train, passes a certain speed board on a curve, put down a higher speed so the train kind of gets back up to speed as well. So you've got a lot to work with there, a lot of tools as far as signage and signals and things like that you can place later on down the line. Now, as you progress, you can also use signals, as I mentioned, and upgrade your trains to haul more tonnage at faster speeds, because that's kind of the name of the game, is connecting industries and making money. So you kind of start out with what is, what kind of resembles the GE 44 tonner, this little cozy monster right here, pulling these couple of hoppers here that have pleasantly derailed, as I just mentioned a moment ago. But the trains are nice enough. They are fictional, but they're loosely fictional. They're obviously based on some realistic trains, but you've got these, which is like considered the small engine. Then you've got like an early Alco, kind of almost an Alco or Baldwin amalgamation, or a mix of the two. And then you've got what looks to me like a GP20, which is like probably the biggest locomotive that you can get presently. So it's kind of neat, and they all look pretty decent as well. You can also purchase more freight cars, required to build more track if you want to run. Obviously, more track if you kind of run out, because when you start a map, you have like an allotted amount of trackage and fill or dirt, if you will, to make your tracks. It's plenty enough, but you can certainly buy more, which is pretty cool. But in my roughly 6 hours of gameplay, I restarted numerous times. Like I said, it's not easy, but it's not terribly tough either. I'm just kind of dumb with games like this, if I'm honest. It's just dumb in general. But I'm not really great at management style games, so it kind of took me a minute to get to grips with it. But your mileage may vary, pun intended. You could essentially spend countless hours, building your track, your railroad, your maps, and kind of fleshing everything out how you want. On to the controls, and probably the bane of the game for me, the controls, controlling the game. I found them a bit confusing initially, and constantly, hit the wrong button, which promptly derailed me or sped me up or ran me into another train, etc., etc. The controls in the UI just seem rather basic and not very intuitive, especially for a numpty like me. or at least my lack of intelligence quotient. So that's just my take on that. The controls are at the bottom of the screen, as you can see here, with multiple or various pages that you have to cycle through to control different aspects of gameplay, and you can get mixed up very quickly. It's like rubbing your tummy and patting your head kind of thing at the same time, if you catch my drift. It can be kind of tricky. So that's probably the biggest takeaway I've got so far with that, is just the controls. They weren't to my liking, but they weren't terrible. So on to the graphics, moving right along to graphics or visuals. There's nothing groundbreaking here, in order I believe the developer kind of went for that, or it's meant to be groundbreaking. The train models look semi-accurate and nice enough. Like I said, it's a game first and foremost, not a sim, but they closely resemble the real counterpart. You know, but the lighting looks nice. The texture work is well enough. This is based on the Unity engine. But, you know, it's a pleasant, kind of cozy little game. You know, all while keeping in mind, this game only requires, like, less than 1 gigabyte of drive space. So, you know, it's not too shabby in that regard either. The animations are fairly well done. Also, you've got nice little particles and smoke, and you know, the actual track laying aspect, so the train, the Geo train that we're in here now, is oddly satisfying to watch. I mean, that's like the bread and butter of the game, if you ask me. It's just very interesting. It's funky. It's obviously fictional. It's obviously not how it's done in real life, but it's just interesting doing it like this versus, say, Railroads Online. If you guys played Railroads Online, and having to kind of do that by hand, which to me was always a pain in the ass. You know, I wasn't really a fan of that. So it's interesting having machinery that does it here, which is kind of cool. As far as sound, you know, like I said, it's a basic game. There are some decent sounds. It's not groundbreaking train sim type sounds, but, you know, you do have, you know, whistles or horns, and this thing that we're in here, the track layer, just kind of has that diesel generator kind of sound to it, which sounds well enough. I think some of the sounds are obviously taken from the other developer's game, Diesel Railcar Sim, which sound fairly similar. From what I recall, there are, you know, some nice flange squeal sounds and things like that. So it's kind of similar in that regard as well. So not too bad in the sound department. But again, not groundbreaking. It's not meant to be like a train sim, obviously. Performance is pretty darn good. I've got a Ryzen 5800X 64 gigabyte RAM, NVIDIA 4070 Ti on an SSD, and 1440p at 165 hertz, and it ran flawlessly. Of course, your mileage may vary there as well. Thankfully, there's plenty of options within the game, such as anti-aliasing, level of detail, FPS selector, and things like that. Very low requirements. 64-bit processor, 4-core or better, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and a GTX 950 or R7 380 with at least 1 gigabyte of RAM. Definitely not RAM. Meant drive space. Overall, it's it's a fun little game. It's not too shabby. It's a decent time killer if you need one. It's a building game first and a train game second, and does both well enough. It's got a bit of a learning curve. Obviously, it is an early game. I don't know if it's considered early access. I don't believe it is, but I don't want to misspeak. Kind of limited information out there. Before going into this video, I didn't really look at much because I kind of wanted to go into it blind, like I do a lot of things. I didn't really want any outside influence. So this is just my personal experience from information I've gathered. So if I've missed out on a couple of things, apologies. I'm sure I have. But with Constracktion, you're getting what's on the label, or the tin, as our friends across the pond like to say. It's simplistic. It doesn't want to be what it's not. And at a $15 price point, it's just hard to argue against. There's obvious numerous hours, days, weeks that you could spend trying to build out, your trackage, your industries, or your track between industries anyway, and building up your railroad or your company, just trying to make money, and hell, even make the craziest track you want possible. I mean, just looking at the intro video to the game on the Steam store tells you all you need to know in that regard. So it's kind of just a lighthearted game. It's not meant to be anything serious to really crunch down on, like a, you know, other specific train sims, for instance. But $15, September 1st. Not a bad little game, you know. Again, not hard to... It's hard not to recommend, and I mean that, you know, I'm sure it's sounding backwards, but you know, it's just a fun little time killer game. It does take getting to grips with the actual, you know, controls, like I mentioned, in the UI, which can be a bit tricky, kind of cycling through everything. But other than that, it's fun enough, and it's all about managing your grade and your dirt. So when you're building track, you've got to watch what grade you have it set on and things like that, because you could run out of dirt, or you could fill up on dirt and not be able to dump it, and then you're kind of screwed. So you really got to watch, you know, what you do while you're building, and it's the name of the game. It's the whole point of the game. But that is Constracktion, folks. Fun little game. Again, thanks again to Lapioware for letting me take a look at this thing early. I'll link down below, of course, under the video, where you can go and find this thing if you want to pick it up in a week's time. But thank you for taking the time to watch. That's it for now, guys. Take care. Hopefully see you next time. Bye.